So we'll keep it pretty informal, especially since it's 6 o'clock, past 6 o'clock. We're competing against a bar and a social. So I appreciate those of you who have come. Very much appreciate it. Today's session is a Women in Tech session, and specifically women who lead, innovate, and inspire our digital future. So last year, was anybody in the session last year? It was a lunch, Women in Tech. You were here? Oh, good. Thank you. And as a repeat man, you were here. So last year we focused more on strategies for real change. So this year we want to spotlight how women are leading change and moving beyond just talking about the issues, but how we can focus on the themes of influence, innovation, inspiration. We have a very inspirational panel, and making impact. So we want to celebrate and shine light on leadership. And we're doing this today through our panel of women who are all successful leaders in tech and innovation. They're shaping networks, policy, entrepreneurship, and governance with the hopes to inspire, or our hopes for today are to inspire and elevate other women, both in tech and leadership roles. So first we have Faye Wongso. She's the founder and chairperson of Kumpul here in Indonesia. She's a visionary leader shaping Indonesia's startup and tech ecosystem. Through Kumpul, she has empowered more than 120 innovation hubs across 40 cities, building a nationwide network that champions entrepreneurship and digital inclusion. She also is the founding partner of Supercharger's Venture Builder, where she's helped accelerate 50 startups in just 5 years, guiding first-time founders and early-stage ventures towards success. Next, we have Nina Barjason, peering coordinator at RootViews. She's a leading expert in internet infrastructure, specializing in peering strategies, content delivery, and network performance. With a career spanning over 2 decades, including key roles at Netflix and Kentic, she has shaped how networks interconnect and deliver content globally. Today, she continues to advance the field through her work with RootViews, the Network Startup Resource Center, and is co-chair of the RIPE MAT Working Group. Nina is a frequent speaker at industry forums and shares her deep expertise on peering and network optimization, including here at Apricot. You were one of the session leaders, right? Yolandi is interconnection community and academy manager at DKIX. With nearly a decade of experience in the peering industry, she has built a deep expertise in interconnection, IXPs, data centers, and cloud concepts. She now leads the Global Interconnection Academy, expanding training and certification programs while fostering collaboration across the industry. Passionate about connecting people and ideas, Yolandi contributes to numerous committees, including Peering DB, the Global Peering Forum, EuroIX, NANOG, and AFPIF, helping shape the future of interconnection worldwide. And finally, at the end, we have Jen Linkova, a network engineer at Google Australia. She is a passionate advocate for IPv6. Jen has been instrumental in driving global IPv6 adoption, serving as a former co-chair of RIPE IPv6 working group and currently co-chairing the IETF IPv6 maintenance 6-man working group, a recognized protocol expert. She has co-authored 11 RFCs and pioneered the IPv6 mostly concept, enabling networks to transition smoothly towards IPv6 only networks. So, excuse me for reading the profiles, but we have a tremendous, strong panel of women. So please give them a welcome. So now moving forward, the formalities are there. We have a small group, so we're going to run this panel session fairly freely. We also want to turn some of the questions to the audience, have your input, your feedback as well. Really today, and much like last year, we want to start asking, why are we still having women in tech conversations like this? Is it because we're not addressing the real challenges? Are we scraping the surface, or are we only focused on the problems and not asking what opportunities are coming out of these issues? What opportunities or unique opportunities do we have as women? So let's begin. This is similar to last year. I'm going to put this down. So I only have 2 slides. I think 2 slides, maybe 3. So in terms of some background, I just want to lay the foundation before I kind of turn to the panel. But for the women in global tech statistics, I primarily was looking at the World Economic Forum's Global Gender Gap report from 2025. So when we're looking at workforce representation, specifically for global tech workforce, women only make up around 26%. Yet this is concentrated in the lower paying roles, not the leadership roles. When we're looking at the leadership gap, 14% of the global tech leaders are women, 14. And only 17% of the global tech companies have a female CEO. So, I mean, there's definitely a very massive gap. The World Economic Forum's report said that almost 30% of senior managers with tertiary education are women. So we really still see the leadership pipeline challenge. In terms of technical roles, women hold 25% of computing jobs, and this is a global stat, and 15% of engineering roles. So this reflects the persistent barriers in these core technical fields. In terms of the parity timeline, do I have it here? So this is how long it's going to take to have full gender parity. So according to last year's 2025 report, globally, it's going to take 123 years to reach full global gender parity. But you'll see the gender disparity or the regional disparity. So while countries like New Zealand and Bangladesh are actually really advancing rapidly, they've taken huge leaps. We have some of the areas, including Central Asia, which their timeline is more like 208 years. So I did a very informal scan through the Apricot 2026 list of speakers. We've got 15 females, 77 male speakers. So that's approximately 20% of the speakers at this conference are females. And attendance, there's a 1-to-6 ratio of women to men. So that sort of matches, it's about 16%. So it does more or less match the speaker count, but it's surprisingly low. So while there's a gap, and we see this urgency, we're also seeing that there is the progress is accelerating. So where 26 to 28% of the global workforce or the global tech workforce is women, this is higher than previous decades. So I think here, so you can see that just even in the past decade, there's been significant jumps. So this goes beyond tech. I took this from the WEF's report. But women are earning their degrees at an equal or higher rate than men. We don't necessarily see this reflected once they get to the workforce, but it creates a strong foundation in terms of future leadership and tech, innovation in tech. So the attrition rate is around 50%, 56% of women leaving their tech careers in the mid of their career. And this specifically has been attributed to them saying that they didn't have enough support, positions in place. They didn't feel there was career growth. And it's a similar stat of around 56% of women taking a break. And that's often for, family, whether it's to raise a family or to help senior family members. But the positive here is that companies are investing more and more in mentorship programs. They're providing more flexible work environments to allow women to either work from home, to be able to have those breaks while still maintaining their career and their development. And they're doing this to create a culture and address the challenge of this gender disparity. And also, conferences like Apricot here, being able to spotlight this. So while it's frustrating that we're having a women in tech session, it's also an opportunity for us to push the agenda forward. So the final positive was the 123 years until total gender disparity. Last year, when I shared the stat, it was 132 years. So in 1 year alone, we've closed it almost 10 years. So if we keep moving forward, the trajectory could be very positive. And it's rooms and discussions like this, if we leave being able to kind of inspire and elevate others, that's where we make the real impact. So I just want you to quickly think about keeping it on the positive note. Any positive shift you've seen in your own environment, your own community, your own workforce, just having that in your mind. And hopefully by the end of the session, we can hear some of that from all of you. But I've spoken enough. I want to turn to my panel. So the first question I have is really just having each one of you to share just for, 2-3 minutes. I want you to share your own experience, your own journey. So this is maybe any obstacles, opportunities, and achievements, because women are notorious for not sort of bragging. And this is a panel that has, really an incredible portfolio, incredible experiences. And, even if there's been any women along the way that have impacted where you are now. So this is to take it from your impressive, the profiles that we read to the topic today with your experience. So I'm going to just start with Faye and move down.
Thank you, Emily. How are you guys? Not guys then, How is everybody? So my name is Faye. So I'm the founder and chairperson of Kumpul. We are the largest ecosystem enabler for entrepreneurship, for economic development, but then through entrepreneurship in Indonesia. I started the journey 11 years ago now. Because when I see Indonesia is such a big country, it's the largest archipelago in the world. It's the largest country in Southeast Asia. We are actually the fourth largest population in the world. So after the giants, China, India, and US is actually Indonesia. But we are the silent giant. Nobody knows about us. Some people don't even know where we are. Is it next to Bali? So I was just like wondering why we are not as empowered or powerful as our maybe neighbors like Australia, maybe because Australia you have like what 25, 26 million people. We have 280 million people. That's just Jakarta alone. One Jakartan is tackling one Australian, done. So we thought like, okay, why we can't do more? I think it's also because we just simply don't have enough money in the country. Why don't we have enough money? We don't have enough businesses or entrepreneurs. So back in like 15, 20 years ago, our level of entrepreneurship was just less than 1%. It's like 0.8%. If we compare it to Singapore, which is like almost 8%, and the US, the thriving sort of entrepreneurship ecosystem is like almost 15%. So for a country this big, we actually need to push it from, less than 1% to ideally between 5 to 10%. We are at 3.5, by the way. So still a long way to go, but getting better. So at the beginning, at least in the first 5 years of our work, we turned to see how can we support more people doing sustainable business, meaning business who will not die, in 1 or 2 years' time. So we were pretty strong in developing tech startups around that time because that's something that you can sort of start just if you have the facility of internet or education living in the big city, you can directly start doing something. But again, that's like business and tech, and women were still very limited in participations. So for us, and for me myself, being a female founder and taking a look at this, I was saying before, I'm not leading the tech myself. I'm not like very technical like you, Jen, but we are working with a lot of tech startups and then founders. And I think in all of the programs, what we try to do is to integrate the representation of women. My team knows that the target should be 50-50. If you have facilitators, mentors, speakers, it should be 50% women, 50% men. Sometimes it's super difficult. It's just like you can't find. But if you know that the benchmark is 50-50, maybe you can get like 25% or 30%. Representation matters. When we ran like a national wide program together with the ministry back in 2019, we could actually put forward the applications of women. We're talking about 10 cities, and in each cities we had maybe 1,500 people. In Jakarta alone, 7,000 people. So we could get almost 40% applicants women. So that was already an achievement simply by saying women are encouraged to apply, and they can also see that, oh, there are female mentors and there are female like speakers. So maybe I'm allowed to be there. And I want to find out, and it's okay, right? So I can like talk more about that. I don't want to take too much of the time, but just want to say that I'm coming from the perspective of giving the platform and then getting the feedback of the founders, and then also talking with partners and how to push that also with our government partners, corporation partners, to say that this is something that we normally overlooked because people just sometimes want to see the numbers and the successes of the business, and we want to say that this is also very, very important.
Okay. No, I was just thinking when I'm listening to you and what you were working on that it's great that we are so different. It's a very different and diverse panel, and I think that's one of the reasons why we are still here and why we are still having this conversation is that the world is not looking diverse enough when we look at tech and we look at tech leadership. And that's why we want to do something about it. And again, I'm Nina. I'm on the technical side. And so back to your questions you were asking. I think some of the first obstacles that I found was when in one of my first tech jobs, grew my role beyond what it had been defined as when I started. Just over the years, I just grabbed more and more responsibility, more and more things. It was more and more fun. I worked a lot. The pay never followed, and that was really annoying. And in particular, the formal leadership didn't follow either. And when I tried to push for it, I realized that it was just my closest associates and my boss knew what I was doing. And things a little bit longer out, they had no idea because that was not my role. So I left, of course, and went to somewhere that appreciated me more, and that was awesome. So that was the obstacle. And I think I want to call out what enabled me to move into what I did later on and why I'm one of the people who were asked to sit here. That was some women who pulled me into the community work when I started going to Nanox and RIPES. It was not necessarily men who pulled me in and said, "Hey, it was the women who were there who were sort of like, look, if you come in and you start doing this work on this committee or this committee, it's going to be great." So that's what I want to call out, and that's one of the things I want to talk about here is the networking, the value of networking, and how we as women can help each other, not just to create our own network, but to pull ourselves and everybody that we are around into the networking that will give you the next job.
So for me, I mean, when I started in the industry, I had no idea what this was about. I had no technical background at all. So I spend most of my days annoying our network engineer, asking him, "What are you doing?" Because and he took the time to explain to me, or at least try to explain to me what he was doing. And this is how I got into understanding what an IXP is. And it wasn't quick. That's the thing I think a lot of people don't understand, that it does take time, and you shouldn't feel like you are failing because it's taking that long. Um, because there's so much to understand, right? There's so many different aspects. So it took me about 2 years really to get comfortable with kind of understanding what we're doing. And then I was thrown into conferencing and told, oh, please go talk to people about what we do. And I'm like, I don't know what we do. But that was probably one of the best things that could happen, because during the conversations and listening to the presentations and just people chatting about, you get to pick up a lot of things. And I used to make a lot of notes, especially on the acronyms and things they were saying that I did not understand yet, you know? So I think the biggest obstacle for me is to find the confidence and to understand that it takes time to find yourself. And I think one of the biggest challenges we have in this industry is that there's so many avenues you can go down that it becomes overwhelming to really find your space. But again, it takes time. So I mean, this was a few years back, and because I had to go through this, I realized that it's not one way to go. And that's where I become more passionate about telling people that there's so much more, and wanting to help them streamline their progress in the industry. Because I think we all face this, is that when you come in, you don't know where to start. You don't really know what you want to do. So this is why I'm very happy that I got the opportunity to work on the academy, which really wants to show you that there's different ways. You decide what you're comfortable with, right? And everybody has their little thing that they become an expert in, but it's also good to kind of stick your fingers in all places, right? Hence, I'm also on so many committees like Nina, because you get to see from different regions, different types of task forces, working groups, committees. So it's so nice to do that. And I encourage you that if you haven't considered doing this, volunteer for the different committees that exist, whether it's for a NOG, for an event like Apricot, it really doesn't matter. And you do not have to be an expert yet. Um, it's really a space for you to learn and to start building your reputation, as Nina has mentioned. It's where people start seeing, oh, okay, this is what she does, this is what she can bring, and it's valuable. And this is where you can start pulling in friends and family, whoever is interested. So I guess, again, the biggest obstacle for me, and I think this is common for us all, is where to get started.
Okay, so I guess I was extremely lucky. I grew up in Soviet Russia, right? And I think I just ignored all those rules because when I was a kid, I wanted to be a skipper of a huge ship. And they told me girls couldn't be a skipper. And then I started doing I'm actually a quantum chemist. I have a degree in quantum chemistry. I did not study all this IT stuff. And then they told me I couldn't be a scientist. And I was like, oh, okay. And then while doing my degree, I was shown all these strange things called computers. And I just started playing with them. And I was told that girls couldn't do computers. And I just stopped listening at that point, right? And like you see, we're all different, right? So I never had a problem of I don't know where to start because I was just doing what I like at that moment. Oh, I like this thing. Oh, it's called Unix. Great. Let me play with this. Oh, fun. Oh, there is an ISP. Okay, I can do something here. Oh, IPv6 thing. Great. Let's look at this. And like every given moment of time, I was doing something which I am enjoying, and eventually something else comes up, right? So I think, and I probably actually a horrible employee because I only doing things I like. And I kind of
suggest when people ask me for advice, I advise everyone should be doing the same, right? Because I think we are much more productive when we're doing things we like. And actually, for most of the at least technical work, there is someone else who actually might like things which you don't. I find it a lot in my team. So we always like kind of have like an RPG game. You get a team of like cleric, warrior, and so on, and just everyone covers some part of the work and everyone is happy, is productive. But going back to the question why we are still here talking about all of this, I think we starting a bit late. I think we need to start from schools, maybe earlier, right? Because I feel a kind of gap in knowledge I was supposed to get as a kid. Sometimes I ask my husband, how do you know that stuff? He was like, I don't know, I just know. And I'm like, yeah, why when I was in school, when I was 10 years old, they taught us how to cook and boys were playing with tools. And that actually is the time when you can learn a lot. So I think we probably a bit like now it's late to talk to us, right? We need to talk to kids and get more kids in tech, interested in technology when they're younger. So probably we could not get any immediate result because it's like scale of tens of years to get next generation. And I think we are on the right track currently, right? It just, we need to be patient and start going early and early and teach kids that it's not so scary. Maybe they already know that. Maybe we just need to wait for like 20 years. And we're going to have a session, boys in IT, why it's not enough men in IT, why it's only girls. And like,
I think that's an excellent point, actually, to include men in the session. And even for our session, we encourage the men to join. By no means are we going to do any male bashing, picking, but it's important to include your little boys as well as your male colleagues, male bosses as part of the conversation so that they understand that they can also help support. So I think starting from young, starting with the little boys is critical as well. So Jen, I just want to keep it with you. So Jen has literally helped write the rules of the internet, right? I mean, it's all. So, I mean, this is influence at the deepest technical level. So I want to know what's helped you to gain credibility and influence in such technical spaces where women are often unrepresented. So I can see part of it is your personality to just jump in. But I mean, what helped you gain that credibility and that voice at the table to be able to do this?
well, I guess I just couldn't shut up. And that probably explains. But yeah, really, I always struggled with questions like that because I did not do anything intentionally. Again, I was just doing what I like, and eventually I found out that something coming out of that work, right? Well, maybe the fact that when I started and I was looking for my first or second job, it was in Russia and it was normal to see like job description like male 25, 45 years old, right? So it's probably forced me to be better than anyone else because I could not afford making mistakes because those mistakes will be perceived as like, you should not be here, right? So I really do not know how to answer that. Again, I was just doing what I like to do right now and eventually it got me here. Because it was really actually very hard. My manager asked me what your career expectations. Like I have no idea what it actually means really. I'm just gonna keep doing things I like. It might be something different in 5 years scale, yeah, but I just refused to hear that I should not be doing something, right? And yeah.
So then, I mean, tech, especially tech engineering, these kind of roles are notorious is not a fair word. There's a higher number of more introverted people in these fields. So you're obviously not one of those introverts. What would you say then? I mean, you're jumping in and you're doing what you love to do. How would you get, female colleagues then to try to have a voice at the table or to kind of gain that credibility or that respect? If you're introverted, it's hard.
I actually think maybe, despite I said that I couldn't shut up, I think it's important to listen, right? Because I kind of always think when people say something I disagree with, I first assume I might be wrong here, right? because all those smart people telling me something differently. So I'm trying to double check that I'm actually all right. So I think it's important to think before you say something, right? And when you double check and you only say when you're reasonably confident, I know you shouldn't be perfect and like wait for everything to be correct, but it makes people listen because it gives it increased probability of you saying the right thing. Because I do, like, I've met different people, right, with different way of communicating, right? And some people tend to communicate in a way in which might give them less credibility. So I was always trying to focus and like make sure that I'm not wasting other people's time. So it's kind of maybe sounds counterproductive in terms of we're trying to build more confidence, but I think the confidence should be based on something, right? And I always would like to be like productive in terms of, I've seen at IETF, for example, I've seen discussion, I want to write a draft. And like, I think it's a wrong approach. You need to solve a problem and then it will be a draft, right? Writing a draft just for the sake of a draft is just kind of waste of everyone's time, right? So I repeat this, find something you like doing, start doing it. And I'm quite sure if you're passionate enough, it will be productive in the end, right? And people will start taking you seriously. Because I believe people sometimes do not take other people serious because it might be a reason for that, right? So
Perfect. No, thanks. So moving on to Nina next. So in your experience, I mean, we're kind of moving on from, people are being introverted, maybe they're scared to speak up. How can women better take up leadership roles? Because I think that's part of what we're talking about. The women are feeling like they don't have an avenue for progression in their careers. How can the women at these tech roles, engineering roles?
Yeah, no, I think that that is an interesting and important question, and it makes me think about some differences that I've noticed both over time, but also between regions. Like when I'm Western European and I've worked a lot with Americans and in American companies, and early on I adapted a behavior that I'm not super proud of, but which was interrupting people and taking part of the whole the one that speaks the loudest has the right, which is really, and that meant I had to stop giving a fuck about people thinking that I was a bitch, pardon my language, but this is where it all comes from. But that was 20 years ago, and that was more acceptable behavior back then than it is today. I think we're way more well-behaved today. But I've also noticed, at least the young people are. I mean, my children who are now in their late 20s and early 30s, I mean, they would not talk like that. And they are also way more respectful of each other and do not interrupt, which is really weird for me. So I have to learn. But I also noticed when I started to go to events like this, I remember the first time I was at Chicks, I think it was, in 10 years ago or more in Kenya. I was struck by a woman who talked about how she insisted on being heard even though she was speaking softly. And for me, that was like, the fuck? Oh, sorry, I'm doing it again, right? And I see the same thing in the young women who, because I adapted the uniform of baggy jeans and t-shirts as well to blend in. And today I see the young women walking around in colorful dresses and the clothes that they feel they would like to wear. Where I'm also that old that, so like that outfit is demeaning, but it's not today. So all of these cultural changes, I think, wow, I'm rambling. To your point, I think we should insist on being heard, no matter how we speak softly or whether we dress one way or another. it's difficult, but I think the time of trying to blend in and match is over. And I think this is where we need to go, is to not do that. And the how, I don't know. I didn't do it, right? So we have to look at some of those who did. Did that answer your question? I don't know. Yeah. Okay.
You did. It was, how can we better take up tech and leadership?
Yeah. So that again, which is in fashion right now, is being authentic, but also being authentic to the female sides that some of us have, or it's all on a spectrum, right? Some of it has very female sides, but that is not incompatible by being a great techie. Yeah. That's it. Yeah.
I just want to add to that. One of the best pieces of advice I got at a young age, which didn't make sense at the time, but makes sense now, is dress for the role you want, not the role you have. And basically, what that means is envision where you want to be and be that person now, right? So, regardless of your title or where you are now, you know where you're heading, right? And you need to start working on it now, because by the time you get to that role, already you're thinking of the next step. So, it's important to have that confidence in yourself and your ability, your skill and experience to step up and lead, right? And lead the conversations in your own unique way. As Nina has said, I mean, if we look around the room, we all take it on differently, and you should embrace that, but with the confidence you have in yourself. Because once you have that confidence in yourself, people will start seeing it in you as well. If you don't have it, I mean, you start falling into the shadows, right? Because you're hiding away. And I feel often as women, we do that. So I think that's one of the things that has helped me as well.
I think that's very powerful advice. You can just hand the microphone down to Faye. Faye, in your position, you're dealing with a lot of leaders and women founders. So my question is to you, what are some of the sort of the unique strengths that you're seeing in the specifically the women founders who are leading companies, like, or in these roles of leadership? Like, what are the strengths that as women we should be really tapping into and amplifying and encouraging?
Talking about skills, I don't think we have to second guess ourselves. IFC did a research. It was already back in 2016, but I think that's still relevant. So they measured these two groups of businesses run by, and we don't know whether this is like run by women or men. So apparently this one group, they can get like profitability up to 12% net profit, which is good, right? And the other group is like 16%. And apparently the 16% is the one run by women. So in terms of hard skills, business decision, technicalities, we're practically the same or even better. But when we work with like female founders, a lot of things that they ask, actually all of this soft power and soft skills, negotiation skills, presentation skills, public speaking skills, and all that, so, and this is also, we believe so much in the mentorship. I was talking about representation, but then also there's a slight difference all between mentorship and sponsorship as well. So mentors, yes, we guide the founders, the business, and then they're also generous. We are also generous enough to share about the mistakes and not just the successes. But sponsors are people who are willing to open doors for you. I was lucky to get a couple of those, and then I think I need to say that I can be in this place because I was privileged. I am privileged. I have parents who never told me, oh, you can't do this or you can't do that, and you can't study this or you can't study that. That alone is already a privilege. I could go to school, I could say whatever I want without being said that, oh, maybe like your brother go to school, but not you, it's not like that. So if you're in the position of privilege, then I feel like it's our responsibility to sponsor people, to edify. It's like in a circle like this, we know someone, for example, like, hey, Nina, I think you need to know Amanda, like she has like her own business and this and that. I think you two would click on that level, and then you leave it at that. And that can open so much doors, like so many doors. So I think that's what we want to encourage. Support system is important when we are a minority because, for thousands of years, the narrations of business and leaderships and tech or science are so masculine. It's not about men and women, it's just the narration. And this is why we think speaking softly is not good for business. It's just because the narration is so masculine. And we live in this world of men that, when you learn a new language, you're so fluent in it. When you're really dreaming in it, you're responding, you're giving response in that language. You can joke in that language. And I think women speaks men. And we don't realize it. So sometimes it's also for us to like sort of like change the mindset and say, there are more than one narration into this, and it's okay. And I'm probably can be here and lead the company and be the head of associations and all because I speak like men, maybe. I can be very intimidating. I'm small, but I can be very intimidating. Which is very masculine in a set. Masculine is just not the way you dress or, it's just like the way you address someone. But if we want to really encourage more women to step up and get to be in the leadership role and leading businesses, maybe we should allow different types of narrations, not just the masculine type.
I'm going to jump in here. Keep the microphone. When you say speaking men, I agree. Do you think now, one of the challenges I'm pretty sure is global is that when a woman does get into that role of being a CEO or a director or a manager, a lot of the times people say, I don't like female bosses. And is it because they're speaking male that all of a sudden now we're projecting, oh, she's being bitchy, to me, that's something that comes up a lot when I have these conversations. So you say you can be intimidating, you can speak, male or the men's language, you can be like that, but is that not part of what is also women's downfall as leaders or barrier as women in leadership is that they're not being respected because they're speaking male?
Speaking male, there's no right and wrong and then bad or good, I think. It's just like where you can actually pave your way towards the current world. But in my company, I think we have more than 70% female employees, and especially on the leadership role. I still believe like equal gender representation is key. So we actually look for more men. But I also believe you attract who you are. So, and then there are certain things that, I don't know, like maybe in a male-dominated companies, you don't do. Something like a very frequent one-on-one session. And just like also a more like safe space when there are other needs and responsibilities coming. And we do live in Southeast Asia. We are in Indonesia, so it's probably different than in Europe or in Russia or Australia. I think 75% of unpaid labor and care are still done by women. I think that, but then that's globally. That's not just in Indonesia, right? So we are more understanding with that. We have like more flexibility as well. But I think now flexibility is also demanded not by only by women, but by Gen Z,
Yeah, I was about to say it's a
by young
generation.
people. just like generation thing, you know. And like you said, like your kids are so polite, and then they're just more woke.
Yeah.
No.
Thanks, Faye. So, Yolandi, on to you next. So your background is very collaborative, community centric, which is amazing. And one of the things that when we were chatting earlier, we were talking about, community and how do we shift the thinking to creating more safe spaces, more supportive, inclusive work environments, especially to pave that career pathway for women. So I just want to sort of ask you about that whole theme of how do we shift the thinking so that there is more equality and inclusive safe spaces.
So I think this is a very difficult thing to answer, but as Jen mentioned, it starts from hopefully a young age where you need to change the narrative, the thinking that, oh, you can't do that, right? But also it's within ourselves as well, not to have that little voice in your mind to say, oh, but I don't belong here, and I shouldn't be doing this or I will not succeed. And in terms of collaboration, I mean, we've spoken about how we got involved in the industry, and I think there's a lot of outreach being done to try and include more women and encourage them to do stuff. But it's also a choice, I think. Is that where you want to be? Like, do you want to be the person on stage? It's not for everybody, right? So it's quite difficult to say that we really want all women on stage because it's not maybe what she is aspiring to do, right? So it's really difficult to say that this is the way we should be going because it really depends on the culture, your aspiration yourself, the type of job you want to do, the career you want to have for yourself, your priorities. So it's really a personal thing, but what I think we can do as a community is just we should see each other as equal, right? I think it's important to know that we all have come this far, regardless of what type of job you do, you are involved, you are making the ecosystem, right? And you play a role. And there's enough space to involve more people. And it's also different per region, right?
Per region, you had the illustration of the paternity leave.
Yes.
And so when we're talking about shifting thinking and creating impact for women, I want you to share this story because this is something that sort of blew my mind and I had never known existed. So I want you to share this illustration.
So in Africa, we had an event called the African Peering Forum. And of course, there's also a woman in tech narrative there. And we were on a panel discussing, we had the different generations discussing their experience with women in tech, right? And one of the things we brought up is to say that when you apply for a job, so we talk about we want to be equal and all of this, but when you apply for a job, it's already, especially if you have, it actually does not matter who the interviewing person is, the manager. They look at you and say, okay, but are you planning to have kids? Right? Because in their mind, they're like, okay, but then I have to provision for when you go on maternity leave. I need to get someone else, and this sets you back. And so there's this concern. Whereas with a man, it's not even a thought. They never get asked, oh, are you thinking of getting kids? And that is something simple, right? But it has such a profound impact because already there, the man has the upper hand because from a business thinking, it makes more sense, right? And one of the men actually came up, and again, in Africa, culturally, the woman should take a step back. And the man actually came up, and we saw this in South Africa as well, is now men also get almost, I want to say enforced, is that the right word? Maternity leave or paternity leave, right? So meaning when the wife has a baby, they also have to take a step back. So already that's kind of giving us the same footing that when I have a child, I do not have to feel my career is slipping away, right? And my husband has so much more advanced that he can do. So that's one little change that I feel already it's eliminating that thought of, oh, I might not consider the woman because of the maternity aspect. And it puts pressure on us because you start thinking, should I have kids?
Yes.
Because how's that going to impact my career? And when you decide not to have kids, and I'm unfortunately in that age bracket where everybody's questioning, do do you want kids? Because it hasn't happened yet, right? And it's a weird question because how do you answer that? Right? Because in my mind, I'm like, okay, but I need to have a career. I need to do this and this. But then from a societal aspect, it's, now I have this pressure. People are telling me my time is running out. And so you have this anxiety around it.
But it is tremendously impactful. And this is where we go back to, how do we include men in the conversation and even in the solution? I call it a solution, I guess.
Yeah.
But by having both people, both genders taking the time off,
Yes.
it's interesting. Yeah.
But this is maybe Nina, you can add, because I was married to a Swedish, so that's why I know. In Sweden, you get like 400 maternity paternity leave, like 200 days each, which can actually, you can do like a full year, or you can do like maybe I want to start working, after 6 months, just like 2 days in a week. And the man needs to take that as well. But if you want to give your share to your wife or your spouse, they punish you to say, okay, then we'll take 100. You can only transfer 100, right? But only 12% men take the whole thing. So majority, this is already Sweden, one of the most equal country in the world, Denmark as well.
Yeah.
Only 12% really take the whole 200 days. And the rest still feel, okay, I rather just yes, like give it to my wife or to my spouse 100 days, and then I go back to work. You have anything to say?
No, it's the same case in Denmark. We were a little bit later than Sweden to have this rule. So we had it as a volunteer option for the longest time. And a lot of men did take part of it as volunteer, but it made a significant difference when it became mandatory, or that you would lose the time if you only insisted on one of the parties to be home. And then I have another remark as well on Yolanda's story is, I mean, where I come from, it's illegal to ask somebody in a job interview whether they intend to have children or not.
It's illegal, but as
It's
they
illegal.
look at you, yeah, I think a lot of countries have it as you're not allowed to ask things like religion, marital status, but they look at you as the female
I know,
and say, well,
it takes in, but
there's a risk that she's going to go off for a year, 6
I
months,
just
whatever.
understood that they actually had the conversation in the interview, and that is a completely no-go.
Yeah, no. But they're looking at you as a female and saying, oh, I don't know if I
Yeah.
want to hire Yolandi over Bob, So that's the challenge.
Sorry, and I
Moving-
just wanted to
yes.
touch on that because I think this is also, especially for younger women, it's a problem. Hence, we have such a big gap in the spread of leadership. Because when you're young, you kick off your career, it's going well, and then kids, and then you have to jump back, but you can't jump back where you started. You kind of have to, you know what I mean? Take
Well, especially in tech. I mean,
Yes,
things
because it
progress
changed.
so fast. So if you take a year off or, I think in a lot of the big cities now too, childcare becomes more expensive than what you're even earning. So it pays to have one of the couple stay home. So I think
Exactly.
and then you feel like you're really missing out and it's even more difficult to jump back in. So I agree. But I just want to hand it over. You guys, thank you. I know it's 6:30, almost 7. Do you have any questions or does anybody want to also share a point on this? Any questions for the panel? Have any of you had any, maybe seen either whether it's a real obstacle that you want to share or even throw out for us to discuss? Or have you seen something that has been a real positive shift in your work environments? Yes. I think it's small. Amplify her voice.
Hello everyone. I am Prakriti from Nepal, and I just want to share my experience. I think the question of women empowerment comes from how we are grown up. So, in a developing country like Nepal, let's start with my story. In my high school, out of 33 students in a computer science major, there were only three girls. And during my university degree, out of 34 or 35 students, there were only five girls. And after our graduation, out of five girls, four girls are working in unpaid internship for 9 months. It's been almost 9 months and they are not getting paid. So there are other problems that I face and fight it through during the university, where I need to take the help of some male to solve the problem that occur. So after all this, I decided, along with my friends, to start a local community. So the community name is CTEC PNC. PNC is the short form of the university that I studied in. And this is the second year the community is running. There we organize events for women focusing on their development. And of course, male are allowed to attend the event too. But we have to face a lot of questions, and there was one event where we took permission from the university, and one of the instructor, or say lead position of the university, just came inside where the event was happening and start questioning what you guys would achieve by organizing these events. Like, it's no use, where will you guys reach? And one of the student, or say my sisters, replied to him, and he started saying like, oh, you are like speaking or debating with me, I will reduce your marks, like your assessment marks I will reduce. He was talking like that. However, we had meeting that night, and next day we talked to the higher level authority and made him say like sorry to her, and we tried peacefully. But there are other problems, a lot of those that girls of the developing country, or say country like mine, are going through. That is just example of a single university. So my question is, how can we make how can we make them feel like there is a space for them too, like we all are same and we can do that too. Because I have that privilege, like her said, my parents support me, they understand me, so I could fly from Nepal to here with other male uh, people of Nepal, but not every parents would allow that. So we are just talking in this way. So how can we make them hear the same voice that they are able to, and one day they can lead everyone and empower other too? So that's my question.
Excellent question.
So I think for me, it sounds like a similar challenge we have as well in Africa, where it's difficult because the parents have different expectations and they do not support that. You know, they want you to become the usual roles, I would say, the mother, the teacher, the nurse, so it's really, and for us, you know, in your culture, it's difficult to say no to your parents. I did. And my mother was very angry with me when I did that, but it worked out. And I think now that she sees what it can do, she is now also advocating this to her friends and family to say, my daughter did this, and I really think you should consider encouraging your child to do this, right? And it's not going to be overnight, unfortunately, right? And I think the big thing is to keep going and start reaching out yourself, not only in your universities, but friends, family, friends of the family, and just grow this network to show the impact. And when you come back from conferences like this, I think it's worth showing the numbers. This is what we were talking about. This is what we see. This is what women out there are doing. This is what we can do because it does exist, right? You just need to keep on going and not stop, right? That's the worst thing you can do.
Yeah, I think it in the end it comes down to role models, right? So I think a way forward is to point out, to look at the examples and to see, but look, there is somebody who did that. There is somebody who did not become a nurse. And so we can do that too. And that reverses it as well to us who made it. We also obligated to sort of go, hey, it happened to us, so it can happen to everybody else as well.
I always say when we wear blue and there are 10 people, 9 people are wearing red, we are wearing blue, we are the crazy one. So what we need to do is to find other people wearing blue. So then find your like similar you and find your support system, the community, and it can actually be like going through a program or a community. So what you're doing for your community is awesome. That's really the start, because we are not the crazy one if we are surrounded by the other crazy ones. And then sometimes, you know what, we talk to some people who's like, the husband doesn't allow her to do this, or the mother, or the sister, or the aunties. Family, sometimes you can't return the husband to the shop. I don't want this one anymore. It doesn't really sit with my value anymore. You sometimes have to live with them, So go out and then find your own community and support system. I think that's the way to go.
And I also think take advantage of opportunities when you travel to events like this, speak to people because you can grow your community outside of Nepal, right? To support you in what you do and make a voice for you as well into the community. Because that's the thing, you can't do it alone, if that makes sense. And your community is not just limited to the people right now, within Nepal, it's here as well. And that's the point of these events, is to be able to tap into that and not be shy, because I can tell you, people here are weird. So we will help you.
I just want to add, I think you're incredibly strong and incredibly inspiring. And thank you for standing up and sharing that, because you might feel that you're relatively alone and that you're 5 people, in a faculty that doesn't want you to speak up. But we really applaud you for doing it there and doing it here. And that all movements start with 1 or 2 of those weird blue shirt people. And we now have the benefit to be so connected online. And I want you to also take all of our contacts, connect with us on LinkedIn or whatever it is, and let us also help elevate your movement so that you know that you have this global support system. And that goes to everybody here, to go back and find the introverts, to find the shy ones who are scared, and help amplify their voices, to support, movements like this. So already, you have this community in this room alone. However we can help you, That's what we're here for. And that's what a session like this is really here for, is to really understand what the true obstacles are and how we can pull you up. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much. And yes, I'm also looking forward to have all of your guidance for my community, like how can we grow, how can we put more women and make them feel confident. So yeah, I will connect with you all. Thank you very
Yes,
much.
please. Congratulations. And good on you for being here to connect as well. That's the first big step. So I know there's not a lot of time and you probably want to network as well. I know we're competing against a social session. So I just want to do a quick rapid fire with the panel. Just one last question. And then if you guys want to share, we can keep on sharing even outside here and throughout the conference and connecting. So my final question, I just want to go 1-1-1-1, is what headline would you love to see in a year's time about women in tech? Or what should we call this session next year?
I think I made this joke once at Tribe some time ago. We need to get women in tech adoption at the same level as V6. Close to 100 ideally, but let's get to 50, 80, yeah.
Yolandi, go.
This is a
It's a tough one.
it's a tough one.
It's a headline like
I think we should, and this is again maybe controversial, but not label it women in tech, because as you can see, there's a perception that it's literally just for the women and Gavin, an analyst.
yeah, thank you for the demo.
You know what I mean? I think it should be more inclusive and maybe start talking about the difference we are making, what we have seen happening in almost like a spotlight, right? So learning about what Jen has been doing, what Nina has been working on, I think that should be the focus, because that's more inspiring than just talking about what should be done. Let's talk
I
about
agree.
what we are doing and share the stories, because it's not just the people on stage here that are doing good things. I think everybody here in the room are doing amazing things. We just don't know about it. And I want to know about it, right? And I think the community out there should know about it. So again, as you mentioned, amplifying the voice of women in tech.
So I'm inspired by I forget names, Jane. So I want the headline to be 60% of tech leaders in startups in Indonesia is women. Because you were saying you had issues actually hiring enough men. And I think you should not be afraid of having the scale tipping a little bit on the other side. We're so afraid that any of the programs that are being put in place will tip the scale to the wrong side, because that would be so fucking unfair. And it's like, how unfair has it been for since the beginning of times? So that would be my wish, is the headline: female tech leaders in Indonesia, 60%.
Let's go. I think ideally there shouldn't be the word female. It's just about, what, like you said, what we achieve, and it should be so mainstream that it shouldn't be, about like men or women anymore. And I want to touch on something that what we try to push with our startups and founders is also to push more product development led by women, because then it's also about safety, about like our biological needs in terms of like products, that can actually not made for female construct body. And this is also not just like the platform, or maybe all of you are more on the software part or like the connectivity, but then when we're talking about real products, it's actually affect our lives, right? So to showcase and maybe to have a lot of panels like this without even calling it women in tech or women in what, but all women, like what we have every day. We have all these panels and all men. And nobody calling it men in tech, They're just being called leaders in tech. So maybe we're being called like leaders in tech, and then we are all women.
Right? Or to shift that thinking of like, ooh, there's a woman on that cybersecurity panel, for it just to be normal.
But then all women. So
For that.
this is actually sitting on the organizer's part, which I'm doing because we are doing all of these kind of programs. We're doing conferences, summit, incubators, accelerators. So deliberately, we can just like put all women and not calling it anything.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. So thank you to the panel. I would love to engage more with you guys if you have time, if we're socializing. But from this session, especially everybody here, I want you to encourage taking what you've heard today, but also paying it forward. I think it's important for all of us in this room to now go back and to really help lift up some of the women in your organizations, companies, in your communities, and make sure that they are attending these sort of conferences, that they are, running for positions, maybe on the board of the various associations that they're joining, that you're their champion. Good. Oh, super. Well done. But that we're championing the women to take up these roles, that we're connecting the women, around the world to have not only these conversations, but to kind of be able to stand out and to speak up. And, even the quiet voices can still be amplified to make impact. So please go back and make sure, we're paying it forward, because it's that ripple effect. Even if you help one other peer, the effect can be tremendous. And that we see, year by year, that this goes up to 30%, 60%, and we keep it going. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. I would love to keep on chatting. I hope that we can keep on carrying this conversation online, outside. And thank you for joining at, almost 7:00. Thank you. Yeah, can we have a group photo? Is there still a photographer here, or we just take? It's still good. It's still a group photo. Is it on? Oh, God.
Just while you're getting ready for the photo, I have an organizer question. In lieu of us just booking this again next year and having another women's tech, because I'm hearing differing opinions of whether you want a women's and tech session, can you please fill in surveys, email us, talk to Philip, myself, Molly, and give us some ideas of what you want done next year, so what we put on is useful. Thanks.
Definitely not social.